And join me in singing our kid song. This is where children belong. Welcomed as part of our worshiping throng. Water, God's word, bread, and cup, prayer, and song. This is where children belong. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi. In our house, these two right here are brothers. And in our house, we have a saying, brothers stick together. Brothers look out for each other. And I say it a million times, don't I? Do I say it all the time? I'm trying to brainwash them into thinking that brothers stick together, brothers look out for each other. Does it always work? No. Do you sometimes fight with your siblings? I'm looking at you, Avery and Braden. I'm looking at you, Jeremiah, Luna, right? Reagan, do you ever fight with your brothers? Yeah. Grown-ups, if you had a sibling, do you remember fighting? Oh, I hear laughing. I bet you could tell me some stories. So we don't always get along, do we? We don't always get along with not just siblings, but we don't always get along with everybody. Sometimes it's hard to be in a relationship with other people. And today I'm going to read for you a story. And it's the story of Cain and Abel. And many of you may have already heard this one. It's not the happiest story. Sometimes I try to do things that encourage us and bring us joy. This one's not the happiest story, but there's still a really good lesson in it. So I'm going to read for you the Cain and Abel story. It's found in the first book of the Bible, which is Genesis, correct? And this is one of the very first stories in the Bible. So I'm going to read this for you. And it's a little bit written a little different, so I want you just to kind of listen, grown-ups, to it. It's going to be a little different than what you would read in that Pew Bible, but here we go. Adam and Eve had two kids, Cain and Abel. And in some ways, the brothers were different. Abel was a shepherd. He looked after the sheep and the goats, and he knew how to soothe the animals with a song, how to birth calves, how to milk goats, how to shear the sheep. Cain was a farmer. So Abel, a shepherd, Cain, a farmer. And Cain, his hands were calloused, and his arms were really strong from plowing and digging. And he knew how to read the sky for changes in weather, and he knew all about seeds and how much to water them and how deep he needed to plant them. So they had different skills and gifts. But in other ways, they were very much the same. They both had the same laugh and the same crinkle around their eyes and the same blood running through their veins. They were brothers. Same and different. So much depends on what we choose to see. Cain and Abel argued sometimes, as brothers often do. And they would argue things like, who's the favorite son? Who was smarter? Who was better looking? Whose work was more important? Who did God like better, shepherds or farmers? And Abel said, well, why does it have to be one or the other? God is both a gardener and a shepherd, and maybe he loves us both the same. One day, both brothers brought an offering. And sometimes when we see the word offering in the Bible, it's a way for people to tell God how much they love him. And so they each brought an offering to God. Abel brought one of his best goats, and Cain brought a basket heaping with the vegetables and grain. They were both wonderful gifts, but Cain thought something just was off, something was wrong. And he says, God doesn't like my gift, I know he doesn't. Cain complained, and God likes yours so much better, I know he does. And Abel's like, well, how would you know? They're both really good gifts. But Cain felt so much trouble. Why was Abel so special? Why was his gift so much better? Why did God like him best? Why was everything so unfair? God said to Cain, why are you so angry? But Cain didn't have an answer. Be careful, Cain, warned God. You are not seeing clearly. Do not blame me or your brother. Your anger, it's right here inside of you. It's like a wild animal ready to spring forth. If you don't control it, it will control you. It's like a volcano ready to erupt. One day, Cain asked Abel to go for a walk with him in the fields. And when they were alone, this is the yucky part. When they were alone, Cain turned against his brother, and all that rage that was living inside him, that volcano, exploded. And he felt wild. And he killed his brother. Oh, that's a yucky part of the story. That's really yucky. When Abel was laying on the ground, the blood that they shared seeped into the earth. Oh, this is yucky. What have I done, thought Cain. He ran away, but he could not run far enough. Have you ever done something and just thought, what in the world? What was I thinking? Why did I do that? Have you ever felt that way? Like, grown-ups, you've felt that way. You've done something, you think, what in the world was I thinking? Well, God came looking for Cain, and he says, Cain, where's Abel? How should I know? Said Cain. I'm no shepherd. He's not my sheep. Cain pretended not to care, but the words of God roared in his head. What have you done? Cain had destroyed life, not just the life of his brother, but his own life, because he and Abel were the same. He could see that now. When he hurt Abel, he hurt himself, didn't he? When Cain harmed his brother, he harmed himself, and he would carry that scar forever. After Abel died, Cain found he had lost his gift for growing things. His seeds wouldn't sprout, his fields were full of weeds, his fruit was bitter. What will I do, he asked God. Where will I go? With a really sad heart, God said, you're going to go the way that you chose. Your choices have consequences, and it hurts my heart so bad. Brother against brother, family against family, tribe against tribe, nation against nation, fighting, feuds, war. This will be your world. God was so sad because he loved Cain so deeply. So where does hatred come from? Does that anger in Cain, did it come from fear? Did it come from being jealous? Did it come from being really, really hurt? Cain wasn't sure. He only knew that it sprung up in his heart, and now its seeds were scattered all over the world. With a heavy heart, Cain went out alone. I know this isn't the happiest story, is it? But it's a story that we can learn a lot from. In fact, we're going to go talk about this story upstairs, and we're going to, what is happening? What is happening? What is happening? Find a seat. We're going to talk about this story upstairs. We're going to talk a little bit about how to say sorry, how to ask for forgiveness. We're going to talk about that yucky word that we don't always like to talk about, sin. Ugh. We're going to talk about all those things. So are you ready to go? I think that's a yes. Let's go.